Welcome to The Real Heal, a show featuring real, raw, and authentic conversations between experts in the holistic health space. This is your chance to be a fly on the wall, listening to a 100% organic, unscripted chat about topics in the holistic health world that most aren't even talking about. And believe me, we are holding nothing back. I am your host, Dr. Renee Wallenstein, also known as the Libidoologist, double board certified doc, entrepreneur, as well as healthcare disruptor. I have navigated the traditional world of medicine in overcoming my own personal health obstacles, and I had to take matters into my own hands when the system was failing me. Now, I'm shaking things up and sharing my message while collaborating with other experts in my holistic health community to bring you answers to your burning questions about not only getting well naturally, but sustaining that newfound good health. Each week, I will bring you an expert guest, and we will address not only the physical components of optimal health, but also the mental and spiritual influences that will set you up for a long life of limitless energy, self-confidence, and joy so you can get the real heal for good. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Jackie, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Hi, so excited to be here. Thank you.
And, we're going to take on the topic of CBD today. And I was saying before we started recording that I've never had an in-depth episode on this topic before. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And there's a lot of people that are scared to try it because of these misconceptions. And a lot of people that are trying it and maybe using it incorrectly or not feeling they're getting results. So you're here to clear that all up. But
Yep,
before we get into it, why don't you tell us who you are and how you got doing what you're doing today?
absolutely. I'm Jackie Narne. I live in Denver, well, a suburb of Denver, Colorado. And I come from a long corporate career. And then I left that world and started my executive search business to support the industry that I worked in, sales and management in the corporate world. And was doing that for 2020, it's now 22 years. Um, And then about 4 years ago, um, but several things happened in my universe at the same time. One was the fact that I had a really good friend who had a boxer, Rocky. He was 14 years old and he was in really bad shape. And he was the most amazing dog. And my friend didn't have much money. She's a dancer. She was staying with me. She had no ability to take Rocky into the vet. And so she was just really beside herself about what to do. Plus, she was, it's that thing about when your dog is that age, it's like, I don't want to go to the vet because what if they don't let me bring him home? Like there
Mm.
was also that. So I called Monique, Dr. Weldon, my vet, and I just said, what can we do for my friend's dog? And she said, okay. And this is exactly how she said, she goes, okay, off the record, get him some CBD. And I was like, okay, why is that off the record? Like,
Mm.
first of all, that was very bizarre to me coming from my vet. And she said, I said, what is that? And she goes, well, and where do I get it? And she said, well, you're going to need to get it in probably a dispensary. And I was like, wait, so we're getting Rocky pot? What are we doing here?
Mm.
Like, and I'm in Colorado where everything's been legal forever, but I don't smoke pot. I kind of tried it in college and wasn't my thing, and had all my judgy Judy misconceptions about cannabis also. And so I had certain thoughts about people who were using cannabis. And I was like, well, this is weird. And then my friend who owned the dog smokes pot to help her calm down, to help her sleep. I wouldn't let her do it in the house, so she got in the car and do that before she'd go to bed and stuff. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, it's at the dispensary." And I was like, "Okay, so I guess we're getting Rocky high, and that's okay. He's old, and if that's going to mask his pain, I'm okay with it. If that's going to help this dog feel better." So she goes and picks up this CBD, and it was not the brand that I now represent, but she picked up this CBD and she started giving it to Rocky. And within like it was probably like maybe 3 days that all of a sudden I was in the kitchen and I was making a sandwich and Rocky was like right there, like, what are we having? And I was like, whoa, what normally he's like in his dog bed, he's in really bad shape, and he's kind of walking around like no pain. And I was like, okay, so we're masking his pain. That was what I was thinking in my head. So that's okay. I'm okay with that. He's 14, and we'll just keep doing that if that's going to help him, and
Mhm.
live out his end days or whatever. And so around that same time, how things align in your universe, a friend of mine who I'd known for a number of years um, announced that she was going to be joining this company as their sales VP, and it was a startup business. And I have always adored her, and everything she touches turns to gold. And I was like, I want to know what you're doing. And so my conversation with her was, what do you know about CBD? And I was like, wait, what? Like I had never even heard of it the year before. And I was like, are you serious? I know a little bit and I told her the story, and she said, Jackie, you need to join me. This is a startup business, and this company is doing everything right on the farm, on the lab, on the distribution. It's an unregulated industry.
Mhm.
This is going to be huge. And I was like, I'm interested. So I started researching the industry and looking at what was going on. That's when I discovered the federal farm bill that passed in late December of 2018 made they basically took everything out of the Schedule One drug category. So we have cannabis nestled next to heroin, highly addictive, absolutely zero, medicinal therapeutic benefits to this, nestled away in there, and they carved out and said, all right, there we're going to separate and we're going to redefine cannabis into two different categories. So we're
Mhm.
going to have marijuana, which isn't even a plant name. It's actually Mary Jane. It was a nickname derived when Mexicans were coming into the country, and they tried to put all this fear mongering out there about cannabis. And so marijuana, they're basically like they're cannabis sativa. So they're the same plant molecularly. The structure is exactly the same, but if you look at how they're cultivated, that's where the difference lies. So if you're growing cannabis sativa and you're growing it as marijuana, it can have up to 20 to 30% THC content.
Mhm.
If you're growing it as what is now defined as hemp, and I used to put those things synonymously together, cannabis, hemp, marijuana, all the same thing. But what they pulled out of Schedule A and redefined was hemp, and they call it industrial hemp. And the reason it's called that is twofold. One is to make that delineation from that and marijuana, but it's also because hemp is, can be used in textiles, it can be used to make concrete, to make hardwood floors. There's 80 million things hemp can do.
Mhm.
It can be an anti-pollutant. It's just crazy what hemp is capable of doing for us. And so they separated that out, and they said as long as it's less than 0.3%
Mhm.
THC content, that is legal across all 50 states. And that just kind of threw everybody out for a little, because what you then had is you had this absolutely crazy therapeutic holistic alternative for people, but it was unregulated. And so a lot of the hype that you would hear and the caution that you would hear was around, you don't know what you're getting. It's not
Mhm.
regulated. You and I could throw a bunch of olive oil in a bottle and, tell everyone, hi, Dr. Renee's famous CBD. And, if somebody wanted to believe us, no one is policing the industry.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so there's that, and then there is the whole kind of, well, you don't know about dosing, and I kind of roll my eyes around that. And you're a doctor, but when my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, it took us 8 months to figure out her dose. So I don't really think there's an absolute science to dosing anyway. But that was another big thing that was being thrown out there into the world so that people would get a little bit still nervous and
Mhm.
edgy about this, right? Um, and then Consumer Reports early on when I got involved in this business. So I joined this company 2 months after the Farm Bill passed and just started becoming a huge sponge of absorbing information, everything from the history, the politics, all that led up to, it being like locked up and thrown away the key in the Schedule One drug category, and what was behind that, a lot of the big pharma input,
Hmm.
influence a lot of different industries that were heavily threatened by cannabis and by hemp in particular. Um, and then, started going down that rabbit hole about initially my feeling was, okay, I know that when we gave Rocky that CBD, it
Hmm.
masked his pain in my mind, right? And so I was like, okay, so this is for someone who has an issue
Hmm.
and they need to mask whatever that issue is.
Hmm.
So for me personally, I was like, okay, well, I don't have anxiety. I don't have, anxiousness. I don't have sleep issues. I don't have pain. Knock on wood. I was like sitting there thinking, this is 4 years ago, and thinking, I will never probably be a user of these products because I don't need them,
Hmm.
quote unquote. But I know a lot of people who do. And I started talking to friends who are like, yeah, I'm taking that, or I know somebody taking CBD.
Hmm.
And it was just like all of a sudden, whenever you're going down any rabbit hole, all these doors open up that you didn't even know were there.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I can be the conduit to USU Organic Certified, which is very highly unusual to find. It's a new industry, so the company's regulating itself so well. That's what would be important to me if I'm going to get attached to this industry as a business. And so then I started learning about the endocannabinoid system, which I'd never heard of.
Hmm.
And then I started really understanding how and why it's so beneficial. And that completely changed everything for me. And that's when I started to understand, well, no wonder this industry is going to be a $20 billion industry within the next couple of years, because every man, woman, child, dog, cat is going to be taking a daily dose of CBD because
Hmm.
it's that much of a game changer.
Hmm. Wow. So you probably, I mean, I think in there you discussed like what exactly it is, and if not, you can elaborate on that a little bit
Yeah.
more. But like, why is it effective? How is it effective? You might want to tie in there a little bit about
Yeah.
this endocannabinoid system and why it's important to our health and wellness.
Absolutely. So back in kind of the early 90s, I believe, um, we in this country, when there was a war on drugs and a lot of things happening and everything got locked away in the Schedule One drug category, other parts of the world were taking a very different spin on cannabis. They were researching it, trying to understand it more, much more. Like the biggest cannabis research company in the world is GW Pharmaceuticals out of the UK. And they started researching it back in like the 80s and all that. So in Israel, of all places, there were some scientists there that were really trying to understand. They were basically trying to understand medical marijuana, as everybody was starting to understand that term. They were trying to figure out, what is it about this THC and this medical marijuana that is helping people, that is so beneficial for people. So they were really focusing on that psychotropic element of the plant. And as they were doing that, they discovered, hold on, there's another cannabinoid from this plant, another molecular structure in this plant that are molecules that are non-psychotropic. So they don't get you high. They don't have that, they're psychoactive in terms of how they activate in your body, but they're
Mhm.
not psychotropic. So it's not that high, intoxicating kind of element.
Mhm.
And they were like, wait, let's isolate and look at this for a minute. So
Mhm.
there was this total discovery of this other cannabinoid. And then that led to them discovering that, and who knew, this happened in the 90s. So they discovered what is called the endocannabinoid system. And the endocannabinoid system is named after cannabis. But what
Mhm.
it is that they discovered that every mammal with a spine has an endocannabinoid system, and we have more receptors in our body that for cannabinoids than anything else throughout every internal system in our body, our endocrine system, every single system in our body. And so they were like, okay, so while we're looking at this, we're realizing that we all of us humans and anyone who has that endocannabinoid system is creating their own cannabinoids. So it's kind of like melatonin. You know how we talk about how people create melatonin and produce melatonin as they get older. Then they're deficient. They're not producing enough of it. So now all of a sudden, melatonin supplements, which are not a good idea consistently, but people are trying to supplement with these things that their body is kind of deficient in. If you Google clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, a huge world will open up to you of what has happened to us in terms of everything, our environment, our food supplies, everything, and how we have this deficiency in our bodies. So if you think about the endocannabinoids that they know about, it's like there are endocannabinoids in breast milk. So you know how babies are soothed and when moms are nursing their babies, they're looking at that and they're now starting to associate the runner's high that they used to look at relative to other impacts, endorphins and all these other things. They're like, hold on a minute, this could absolutely be endocannabinoids. So they know about two cannabinoids that we're producing, and there's many more that they believe are there. So what they discovered was that these phytocannabinoids, so these coming from the hemp plant, these cannabinoids that are coming into our body, they mirror those endocannabinoids. And so that's why when they come into our body is like, oh my God, there you are. We haven't had enough of you. We need you here, 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 and here. We're not sleeping well. We're in pain. We can't stabilize our mood right now. We need help in all these different arenas. And it was really, when I was first getting into this, I was like, okay, snake oil, because people were like talking about how, oh yeah, I'm sleeping so much better and my knee doesn't hurt anymore. Or my knee, I have less pain than I was having and I'm calmer and, all these different things. And I have better focus and I have more energy. And I'm like, I mean, those are like totally contradictory things. Like, how are you getting all this stuff happening at the same time? And that is when I was like, that's too good to be true. But then when I started understanding how this system works, the system is sort of it's like the great balancer. So basically 80%, and as a doctor, I'm sure you know this, I didn't realize this, like 80% of what goes wrong with us is this imbalance in these systems. A lot of it is inflammation in these different systems. And I was not even aware that there was such a thing as neurological inflammation. Like I associated inflammation to like, oh, my knee hurts, or, like, I don't know. I didn't know that neurological inflammation was even a thing, that someone's mood, someone's anxiousness, and all those things can be impacted by that. So CBD is a great anti-inflammatory. It's a holistic anti-inflammatory, but its goal is to keep your body balanced. And I watched, when I first got involved in this, I watched this amazing video that this guy did, and he was like super. We can put a link to it if people really want to get nerdy and understand it more, like I obviously done. But the guy was using a mobile that you put over a crib, and he was talking about how, okay, here's the thing: you've got this mobile, and this is your body, and now you've got this nice balance going on, but then all of a sudden now you've got a problem in an area. And so he was taking like paper clips, and the paper clips were pharmaceuticals, and he's like, okay, so you've got this problem, so now you need to address this problem. So he would take this paper clip and he would clip it on the bottom rung of the mobile. And now your mobile's all off balance. And so it's like, uh-oh, we addressed this, but now this is a problem. We need another paper clip to put over here. And it was just and it was that whole idea of side effects and yeah, we're addressing this, but now we need to address this. And so and I love analogies. It's a great way. It's probably my favorite way to learn. And so I was like, oh, and so he said, if you look at CBD, it's the beads at the top. So instead of it being down here at the bottom, and again, kind of back to how I felt about Rocky, like it's just masking his pain. It's like, no, it's up here at the top and it's leveling everything off. So
Mhm.
as long as that's why it's so important when you integrate CBD into your life, it's a daily consistent thing. You're feeding your body consistently what it's not making enough of. They've actually come out with studies now where they're looking at the idea of, we think maybe what is happening with people that are taking daily doses of CBD is that it not only is it activating their endocannabinoid system to start working better, but so it's fueling it. Like people say, well, how does CBD work? And I always say, well, CBD gets your body to work. Like that's really what it's doing, right? So it's just getting your body to do what it should naturally be doing.
Mhm.
But when you look at that, it's like all of these people that are having these issues and that are taking this daily dose of CBD, they're starting to think that people are starting to produce more endocannabinoids. So it's getting your body to start working more effectively to
Mhm.
produce, like that clinical endocannabinoid deficiency that I was talking about.
Mhm.
It's getting your body to start working a little harder. It's almost like if you start working out and now all of a sudden your body's getting stronger and your body's getting more capable of doing things. It's
Mhm.
almost that same kind of impact, which is why it's just super important when you integrate this into your life that you really pay attention to how much you're taking, which we can talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit. But
Yeah.
that endocannabinoid system is just amazing. And I just never in a million years, and they don't teach it in medical school. I
Mhm.
actually came across I grew up in Oregon, and I had a friend that's a massage therapist. And I was trying to look into, because I always love to kind of research and look at new areas of this is all relatively new, 4 years since that farm bill. And so there's a massage therapy school in Oregon that's now teaching the endocannabinoid system. There are, I don't know, I know that Big Pharma like really financially supports medical schools. So I don't know how much they're going to be all that excited to go down this path. But this is real. Like this is an absolute, that's why CBD will do the same thing for an animal that it does for you and me. It's the same exact endocannabinoid system.
Now, I think you touched on it. I mean, I had never heard of an endocannabinoid deficiency. And
Yeah,
what causes that? I mean, is it lifestyle choices? Is it stress? Is it age? All of the above?
I think it's really interesting. There was probably about a couple of weeks ago, I read an article that was really interesting, and it was about how when you look back at a time, I mean, hemp, for example, when the settlers came into this country,
Mhm.
everyone was required to grow an acre of hemp. George Washington had a hemp farm. Hemp was everywhere. The cattle were eating hemp. It was in the water. It was like, so there were sources of getting this phytocannabinoid into our body. And at
Mhm.
the same time, simultaneously, we weren't eating processed foods as
Mhm.
much. And we didn't have the lifestyle choices that some people are exercising today. Well, that's probably not the term to use. I mean, like we just had um, a different way that people are living. We have pollution, and we have
Mhm.
all of these things that like these external things that are impacting how things are getting into our system and into our body. So I
Mhm.
think when you combine those things, I actually read about how they're giving bison in Nebraska or Wyoming. They're giving bison hemp now. They're going to start looking at integrating this back into our livestock. And what might that do in terms of things that we're consuming? I don't know. So I think it's an absolute combination of
Mhm.
things, and I think
Mhm.
that the endocannabinoid system, if you Google it and you read about the deficiency, there's so many things that someone can do outside of CBD. That's just one thing that
Mhm.
is sort of like put it in your toolkit,
Mhm.
and that's going to help you continue to activate that endocannabinoid system, have it working at maximum capacity. But here's a list of other things that you can do. And there are other things that are in that plant that like there's over 100 cannabinoids in one hemp plant, which is just shocking. We know about CBD, THC, CBN, CBG, CBDA, CBGA. There's like that's six. Like they're going to keep discovering more and more and more that's coming from that plant. Those are minor cannabinoids. The major ones are this is CBD in hemp. The major one in a marijuana plant would be THC, but
Mhm.
there are those other cannabinoids. But also in that plant, there are over 200 terpenes, and terpenes they're in other things. They're they're in plants, they're in flowers. They're there for smell. They're there to ward off predators. There's all these things, but what they're talking about now, and it's kind of the new frontier of cannabis, is terpenes on it from cannabis are like essential oils on steroids. Like they have so much therapeutic benefit. So if you look at the fact that you can get terpenes from other methods, those are also things that can be beneficial for your endocannabinoid system. So there, and that's why we can talk about this in a minute, but that's why if you're taking CBD, unless you're drug tested, it's best to take it as it's come from the plant, like full spectrum at that tiny little trace of THC, which is like, 0.3% or less. And everything else is coming from that plant because they're all working simultaneously and synergistically together. And that's the most effective way to integrate it into your body.
Gotcha. Yeah. You mentioned it. I had a friend whose husband had a lot of pain and issues from injuries in the military, and he couldn't take CBD because he's drug tested. And it
Yep.
was unfortunate, in my years of trying different CBDs. We talked about that
Mm-hmm.
before hitting the record button. So that wasn't an option for him, unfortunately. But so you covered terpenes. So as I just said, I've tried a lot of different products.
Yeah.
I have used them consistently. Again, I don't know the quality. I always think I do my research and get quality products, but
Right.
because it's unregulated, how do we make sure that we're getting the highest quality products in this unregulated market?
Yeah. The first and foremost, I mean, in the perfect world, you would get US Organic certified because that coveted seal. It's very few brands have it. But that highly coveted seal is going to give you, like, there's no gray area. Like, you're getting quality. But because this industry, when the Farm Bill passed in late December of 2018, a lot of well, actually, let's go before that. So prior to that time, you could see CBD out there, right? But no farmers were growing it for those products in this country. So all of the hemp that was being used to create those CBD products was coming from outside the country. 80% of it was coming from China. And China uses hemp as an anti-pollutant. They discovered the bioaccumulation impact of hemp when they planted it all over Chernobyl after that nuclear disaster. And
Mm,
they realized that for 40 miles, it cleaned the air, it cleaned the soil after that horrific tragedy. And they were like, wow, this is like the biggest anti-pollutant on the planet, which is another huge use of hemp. And so China, who uses hemp for that purpose, they use it to clean the ground, to clean the air. They were chopping it down, and we were over here in this country going, "Oh, why don't you send that to us?" And then
mhm,
we were like throwing that. The manufacturers at that time, there were probably three manufacturers of these products that were basically taking this nasty, yucky hemp, and they were integrating that into products and putting that out there to the public,
mhm,
unregulated, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
so that's when Consumer Reports, they pulled a bunch of these products off the shelf, but they bought them online, they bought them off shelves, and they started studying these products
mhm,
and really looking at them, and they found heavy metals and toxins and even E. coli, like scary stuff, no CBD. Whenever I'm talking to somebody and they say, yeah, I tried it, didn't work, I'm like, it was either the quality, the consistency of how they took it, or the dose, figuring out the sweet spot dose. And it
mhm,
could be one of those things or all of those things, right?
mhm,
And so when you look at how you as a consumer, when you're in an unregulated space and you're like, okay, I'm at the mercy of all these unregulated companies. Like, where do I go to get these
mhm,
products and know that I'm getting something? So there's so few USDA organic certified. If you can find that, get that. The next thing though is what's called a certificate of analysis. So it's a COA, and what I learned is that, and I actually learned a couple of things. I learned that when you're looking at the CBD brand and you go into the website, it's seriously, I tell my team and in my CBD business, I'm like, it's like looking for Jimmy Hoffa. Like you can't find where is the farm, where is this manufactured, where's the distribution. They're usually three separate entities. And so that leaves a lot of room for quality issues. But in that realm, a certificate of analysis and it needs to be from a third party, and that should be a detailed lab report of exactly what is and is not in your product. And you have to make sure that the certificate, that COA, needs to be for that extract. What I discovered was that even when I could find those COAs a lot of the time, they weren't mapped. They were old. They were from a different extract. You want to make sure that, I mean, like with my company, it's a barcode on the product that will take you straight to that. You want to be able to look and see exactly what is and isn't in your product. And then the next thing that you want to do is you want to work through the elements of the consistency and understand why that's so critical. Work through finding your sweet spot dose and why that is so critical. So, first and foremost, I mean, if you look at the reason why there's so few USDA organic certified brands out there is that when the Farm Bill passed, they were not, like when my company launched, they weren't even certifying farms yet for hemp. So this was like February of 2019. The founders of the company that I'm partnered with, two of them are sixth generation farming brothers. So they started farming hemp back in 2014 with the first Farm Bill, when that first Farm Bill said, okay, we're going to let some farmers get licensed with their state, start growing hemp, because we haven't been growing hemp in this country for decades. So start growing hemp for research purposes. And this is way before that, the second Farm Bill. And so the two farming brothers with my company were doing that. And so you have to turn a crop over 3 times to even register for that USDA organic certification. And then on top of that, you have to, getting that certification can take some time. So when that Farm Bill passed, our first USDA organic certification happened in the fall of 2019. And that's because they had been farming since 2014. So all these other companies out there that want to get into the CBD industry because it's so lucrative, they've got time, they've got 3 years if they weren't doing anything prior to that time. That's why there's not a lot yet. Now we're 4 years in, there are going to be more. But then fast forward from then, they weren't USDA organic certifying the final product until like towards the summer of 2020. And so, and the first certification was for a full spectrum extract, meaning, meaning everything from the plant as it came out of the soil. So if you were doing anything to create broad spectrum, an isolate product, or do anything through that manufacturing process, that couldn't be USDA organic certified yet. So they were taking baby steps through that process. The farming brothers with my company have been USDA organic certified for a quarter of a century for other crops. So the farm was already super clean. And so when you're looking at that, I mean, not to just, talk about this company, but just in general, you just want the COA. You want to make sure you map it to being for your extract. And there are people out there now that are getting kind of wigged out about how come it doesn't say CBD, because a lot of times the product on the label is going to say hemp flower or hemp extract. And hemp extract is CBD. If it says hemp oil, then that's kind of the CBD is not in the seed. So if anything is just saying hemp oil and it doesn't say hemp extract, that is going to be no CBD. And you'll see a lot of that, like Amazon. For the longest time, Amazon wouldn't sell CBD. And I would talk to them like, yeah, I got some CBD. I'm like, well, where'd you get it? I've ordered it off Amazon. I'm like, no, they don't sell CBD oil. Like they sell hemp oil. but they
Mhm.
don't sell CBD oil. So
Mhm.
again, that sort of, like synonymous term that we try to throw all together, you're
Mhm.
thinking, well, it's hemp. Like, isn't hemp oil? Wouldn't that be? No, it's not the same.
Mhm. So we kind of went through making sure it's organic and to get a certificate of analysis and all the things. So like
Mhm.
someone goes out, finds a product, checks all the boxes. So how do they start? Where do they even start? How do they integrate this into their current health and wellness routine?
Okay. This is where it becomes so important. And I always tell people, if you're going to integrate CBD into your life, it's a
Mhm.
commitment to be
Mhm.
consistent,
Mhm.
because it's like anything else. It's like, if you join the gym and you go every once in a while and you work out, it's going to have a very different impact than if you join the gym and you go all the time, you stay on a routine, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing. You have to look at CBD like a daily vitamin, like
Mhm.
really kind of that same idea. I was never a vitamin taker, but now that I understand how CBD makes my body more effective, I'm
Mhm.
absolutely, and that was kind of going back to when I said, oh, I'll never use these products. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, preventatively, everyone will. Like, this is so
Mhm.
smart for everyone, right? So, in that, you have to first and foremost be committed to say, I am going to integrate this into my health and wellness regimen, and I'm going to be consistent. I'm
Mhm.
not going to spread. It's not like, and again, it's that association with cannabis, right? Oh, I'll smoke some pot and it'll make me feel calmer or something. I'll take the CBD and it'll do this for me. That's
Mhm.
not how this works at all. That's why a lot of people, they have a real misconception about what is going to happen when they start taking CBD. And
Mhm.
so the thing that you have to understand too is that this is a different cannabinoid. It
Mhm.
operates differently in your body. It works differently. So you're going to first and foremost be taking it consistently every day. And you always start low and go slow, because with CBD, you can never OD on it, right? There are no side effects to speak of. So that's the beautiful thing about looking at this as something to integrate into your health and wellness. But the problem you run up against is that if you're taking more CBD than you need, you're
Mhm.
wasting your money. And
Mhm.
CBD, if you're buying high quality CBD, that's an investment.
Mhm.
So if you are taking CBD and you're starting low and you're going slow, I always have, like with my customers, I always say, make a list of the issues that you have: sleep, pain, mood, focus. And I want you to rate those things on a scale of 1 to 10,
Mhm.
and 10 being the most severe. And then I want you to start, and I always have them start on a low dose. So
Mhm.
start on a low dose, and then you kind of titrate up, right? So that low dose you stay on for 4 or 5 days, and then you go back and you revisit that list of where, okay, so my pain was an 8, and now it's a 6. Like, it isn't like, oh, it's an 8, now it's a 1. It's not, it isn't going to
Mhm.
happen like
Mhm.
that. It's going to be very gradual and it's going to take some time. We have like a 30-day guarantee on our products, but I had a woman who it took her 4 months and then it changed her life. But
Mhm.
it's like you have to just be committed and you
Mhm.
have to do what you need to do to stay consistent. So with that, you don't necessarily say that you're taking CBD and you're like, okay, I've been taking it for a week and I don't feel any different. The thing about CBD is it's super subtle. I've had people who stop taking it and they're like, wow, I did not even realize how much this was helping me. So it's
Mhm.
it's almost like the absence of, so the absence of feeling is so much anxiousness, the absence of pain, these kinds of things, they're much more subtle. So
Mhm.
let's say that you get 4 or 5 days in and you're like, okay, here's kind of where these numbers are now. I'm going to go up a little bit more and then
Mhm.
I'm going to visit it again in another week, right? So you just kind of move up and you'll get to a point where you will start feeling not as well as you were. And that's
Mhm.
how you determine your sweet spot dose. So
Gotcha.
with CBD, what can happen is that if you take more than you need, your body only needs what it needs. So it's going to eliminate what it doesn't need. So there's where your waste of money comes in. But if you take more than you should and more than you need to a more extensive level,
Mm-hmm.
you are activating this endocannabinoid system, and there are these receptors all through every system in your body. So if you take more than you need, what can
Mm-hmm.
happen is you can flood those receptors and then
Mm-hmm.
they shut down. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
had people that say, I started taking CBD and it was great. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't working as well. Like it wasn't doing as much for me. And I always say, all right, we're going to do a reset. We're going to do
Mm-hmm.
it. You're going to stop taking it for a week. And then we're going to we're going to go low and slow, and we're going to find your sweet spot dose.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all such immediate gratification mentality people in this world, right? In this society. And so trying to be patient and trying to give it some time is kind of a difficult thing. I get really frustrated when I see in like Facebook is a great example, because even though supposedly you're not supposed to be able to advertise CBD products now, big brands seem to be able to come in and do that. So money talks. But I'll see in the comments, people will be saying, yeah, I tried this, it's not working. And then the response that will come in from the company is, oh, you need to up your dose. Oh, you need a higher strength. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily true. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
and every single person is different.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously the higher strength, if you're buying a 500 milligram bottle of CBD versus 1,000 milligram, you're paying a lot more for
Mm-hmm.
1,000 milligram, but you might not need that. You may only need the 500 milligram, and you
Mm-hmm.
might not need as much as they're trying to tell you that you need. So that's why I feel like I love being in the position I'm in to help people. I'm kind of like a CBD Santa and a CBD consultant, right? At
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
same time.
Yeah.
So kind of putting it under their tree and saying, wow, look at this amazing gift that you didn't even know was out there. And then, okay, now let's make sure that you know how to use this effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to really be able to understand those elements,
Got it.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Fun fact, as we're wrapping up the episode here, is that my dad is a dairy farmer, or was a dairy farmer. He
Oh,
retired.
okay.
But interestingly enough, he had a large dairy farm when he retired. And it was
Wow.
the when he retired, the owners sold all the cows and they sold it to a hemp company. And
Wow.
their goal was to make CBD out of, growing
Uh-huh.
hemp and make CBD, but it went under. It was a terrible growing season. And I think it
Oh,
was like a year, just the climate here just was not optimal and it was interesting because I also have a friend who has tomatoes and the same thing. Her crop all like went to heck.
oh
So like
dear.
it was just a bad year for them to get started.
When was that?
Gosh, probably about 5 years ago,
Okay. Okay.
5, 6 years, five.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, quickly, I don't even think it was a year. They tried the crop, like they tried, and then it went
Yeah.
under, unfortunately. So it sounds
Yeah.
like right around maybe the time where the farm bill was passed, and
Right.
and it probably would have
Right.
taken them. And I had heard that before because I had a blueberry farmer where I used to live that took them
Oh,
three
wow.
seasons in order for them to become organic. So 3 growing seasons,
Yes.
even though they
Yes.
did advertise that they were not using anything on their crop, anything that
Right.
would not make them organic, whatever that entails. But
Right.
by their, after the third growing season, they were certified organic. So I was aware of that as well. So it does take time, and
It
kudos to
does.
the farmers that like stick it out, and they're farming and using all the organic practices, but they can't call themselves that yet until they get that
Right.
certification. So this
Yeah, and
was,
it's such a buzzword in the industry because it is unregulated. So everybody will
Mhm.
say, and that's why, like when I was talking about how I would, I never compare brands and try to say, oh, here's what's wrong with
Mhm.
yours. I just kind of emphasize what makes ours different,
Yep.
right? Because
Mhm.
that it's so easy to be able to do that with that certification. But it's like what you'll see is, okay, you go to a website and they're like, we have our hemp comes from organic farms in Kentucky. And it's like, well, where are they? Like, who are they? Like what, like it's
Mhm.
such
Mhm.
a thrown out there generic term.
Mhm.
And organic can still involve pesticides that are considered organic.
Mhm.
There's just all these
Mhm.
weird things about it. And so it's like, it was interesting with my company. Um, when I came on board with my company, and the founders of my company is a husband, wife, a brother, her brother, and the two farming brothers that are all agriculture people. Like that's
Mhm.
what they come from
Mhm.
in North Carolina. And I was talking to our CEO, and I'd been hearing a lot about water soluble. And I was like, this is way back in 2019. And I was like, okay, because the thing about bioavailability is that, um, for example, if you're taking a tincture and going back to that for just a quick second, when you are taking CBD,
Mm-hmm.
you want a tincture or you want a water soluble, which isn't even a true scientific term for this, but it's nano enhanced, nano
Mm-hmm.
emulsified, so that it passes through your digestive system and your liver intact and
Mm-hmm.
gets to your bloodstream. So you have a higher bioavailability. You want either a nano enhanced gummy or you want a tincture you're going to drop under your tongue, and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
hold that under your tongue for, like, I always say, more than 60 seconds. Let all of it get absorbed by your sublingual glands. Because by the
Mm-hmm.
time when you swallow CBD, the bioavailability of a tincture that you're dropping into your tongue ranges from about 12% up to 35%. So the higher grade, higher quality product that you have, you can get up to that 35% level, but that's still not 100. If you have a nano enhanced um, gummy, basically, and you're ingesting that, the bioavailability of that can be up in the 90th percentile. So when I was talking to our CEO and I said, okay, the bioavailability for these tinctures is not as high as if this was water soluble. And he was like, okay, well, that's not really the term, because evidently, I don't know all the science of that, like why or how to call it that. But he said, I said, are we going to have that? And he said, here's the thing, to create a nano emul or a water soluble gummy, he said, you have to implement chemicals. Our number one goal is USC organic certification, because at that point, the farm wasn't even certified. So he's
Mm-hmm.
like, we will not do anything to jeopardize that. But
Mm-hmm.
he said, never say never, because since we do own the lab, they were running over 100 R&D projects. And he said, if we can figure out a way to create a, a water soluble gummy that can still be USDA organic certified, we'll do it. And if
Mm-hmm.
you fast forward, the company introduced and it's still the only nano enhanced, we call them jellies, nano jellies, but that's like gummy that is USDA organic certified,
Mm-hmm.
that is like comparable to water soluble. So it is in that 90th percentile. That's a huge thing. Anybody that's taking any kind of CBD gummies and they're not nano enhanced,
Mm-hmm.
that 5 to 6% is getting into your bloodstream. Talk about a waste of money. That's like
Mm-hmm.
a huge waste of money.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great because we took a total deep dive into everything, all things CBD. And, I think we squelch a lot of misconceptions out there as far as CBD goes. And, you've kind of gone over some of the common uses: mood, sleep, it's an anti-inflammatory, so obviously pain.
Yes.
And, I think it has utility in a lot of people's repertoire as far as their health and wellness regimen, and as a supplement, right, as a
Yes.
supplemental to doing all the other things to
Right.
remain healthy. And so
Right.
this has been great. And so I'm the last question I always ask, which will be interesting to hear what you have to say, is what is one thing that now that you wish you knew 5, 10, or even 20 years ago? I've had some guests go way back because they've been in their field for so long, but what is that one thing that you wish that you had known?
I guess I would say that I wish I had known back then that, I'm 68 years old, right? I wish I had known back then that I had yet to really find my purpose and passion, because I loved what I did. In the executive search world that I operated in when I left the corporate world and started my search business, it was very intrinsically rewarding, but not to the same degree, because the people I headhunted were gainfully employed. Like, it's always like when my friends would go, oh my gosh, the job market's so bad, you must have a lot of candidates. I'm like, no, when I take on a search, I don't have any candidates, because I'm going after people that aren't even thinking of leaving the job they're in. I'm headhunting people already employed. But the intrinsic reward of that is, if I really can find them something that I think is better than what they have, then those are people that you can put into an amazing career path. And I have people like placed that they're still at the same company 15 years later
Wow.
and thanking me for doing that, right? So
Mhm.
I always had this intrinsic reward to what I did, but I wasn't changing lives. I wasn't changing people's physical and mental lives like that. And then with my business, I wasn't helping others do what I'm doing and feel like I feel about doing that. So being the conduit to changing lives and sort of being a ripple effect to doing that,
Mhm.
whether it's the business side of what I do and bringing
Mhm.
people in to partner with me there, or whether it's all of my customers and the customers of the people I've brought in. Like it's just this ongoing healing, not healing, but helping the world feel
Mhm.
better. So
Mhm.
had I known that I had that in my future, that I had this crazy thing in sitting out there that was going to give me purpose and passion beyond anything I'd ever had before, how exciting would that have been, right? I thought I
Mhm.
had it, but
Mhm.
I think it just goes back to showing people that, oh my gosh, and it so energized me, right? I've been
Mhm.
doing my search business for 20 years. I pretty much knew everything like the back of my hand. And as you
Mhm.
can tell from our conversation, it's just an ongoing learning
Mhm.
process with this because
Yeah.
this is a new marketplace. It's a new industry. It's not a new plant, but it's new in terms of how it's finally, out of prohibition and
Mhm.
what it's doing for people. So just being in this learning mode again and having purpose and passion beyond what I would have dreamed of, I guess I would say to people, when you're looking at your life and find that passion, but
Mhm.
know that it may come to you at whatever point it comes to you.
Mhm.
Be aware, see the signs when they're falling into your universe, like they did mine, and
Mhm.
then just take those risks and step out of your comfort zone and
Mhm.
try something different. I mean, like
Mhm.
for me, if I hadn't started this CBD as a
Mhm.
side gig thing, my search business died when the pandemic hit, like
Mhm.
completely. And so for me to have something else that I could grab a hold of was amazing because it
Mhm.
saved me, but it
Mhm.
also made me even more honed in and focused on this and put me in this position that beyond where I was 4 years ago,
Mhm.
just in terms of the impact, it's like, it's crazy. I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah,
but
no, no, it's great. Yeah. So, we didn't go deep into your products. I have in other episodes with different products I have personally tried, and I've not personally
okay.
tried yours yet. So,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately, when I have my own, and so I will just stay tuned to my audience. If you watch me on Instagram, I'm big into my Instagram stories and things I try and things I
Yes,
endorse. And so stay
yes.
tuned because I will try your products to see how they work, and also
And for
potentially
your
for my
dog.
doggy. Yep. But anyone out there that's looking for some guidance, I do value the fact that they are organic and they really
Yeah,
stand behind that, and smaller company, which I totally love.
yes,
And so if you are looking to try CBD, really want to have your hand held as far as dosing and what kind and all the
yes.
things, where can they find you?
Yes, they can. I have a link tree that
Mhm.
is it's great because I personally like to learn through watching versus reading. And if they go into my link tree, it's link to LINK, what is it, tr.ee/J Nairne, and we can put it in the thing probably.
Yep.
But in there, you can schedule a conversation with me through my
Mhm.
Calendly. You can go to my website for the company that I am partnered with, watch the videos because the videos are like most of them are less than 5 minutes long, and they're going to walk you through the background of this particular
Mhm.
organization, how they originated, because the company originated through the president, a woman, the wife of our CEO, and her struggles after she had her son, and how CBD completely lifted that fog and changed her life. And then her looking for a little bit later, looking to give it to her kids, and then realizing how unregulated it is. That's how the company launched. Was we need to grow our own, we need to have something that's organic. And that's kind of how it all started. So there's a
Mhm.
great little video story about that. There's a great like 4-minute video, 3 or 4 minute video that talks about what sets the company apart in those specific areas. So there's a farmer video, our farming brothers just taking you through the whole farming process. So I love that people can go in and really watch and learn. And we have a chief medical officer, which few CBD brands do. And Dr. Jack Narne is a practicing licensed physician, a pain management specialist. And he did a 15-minute talk on the endocannabinoid system. That's in there. He also has a 6 series YouTube thing on CBD. So they go to that link tree, it's going to like open everything up to them. So they can schedule a conversation with me. They can order products. There's a product match form that they can fill out. And then I can come back and give them recommendation on what we should be doing first and foremost and what other things could benefit them. We didn't talk about topical CBD. And I want to just very quickly just say something about that, because people that say I've tried CBD and then they tell me they're using topical CBD. Topical CBD does not get to the bloodstream. It's for targeted pain relief, and it is amazing. You put that on 5 minutes later, and you need to massage it in. 5 minutes later, you're pain free, and that will stay for a number of hours, right? But it's working from the outside in, and you want to work from the inside out as well. So it's kind of like a topical. If you can only do one thing with CBD, take a daily dose first and foremost. But that topical is great for that kind of additional, oh my gosh, my knee really hurts today, or I'm golfing and I've got problems with my elbow, whatever. That stuff is like fast and furious and very, very quick. So I would say go to my link tree, because it'll take you everywhere you need to go, and it'll connect you to me in a way that makes the most sense for you.
Okay. Are you on social media at all?
Yes, I'm on Facebook. I have team members that are on Instagram. So I'm not going to give you my Instagram thing because it's pathetic. Someone would go, wait, you call that on Instagram? But I'm just on there because of them. So I probably should step that up a little bit. I have something though that I think is very valuable and beneficial for people who want to learn more. And it's a public Facebook group called Vetted CBD Learn and Share. We can put the link to that, because coming into that, it's not about my company or my products. It's about the industry. It's about CBD. So it's everything from general CBD information to industry information to what's going on federally to where things are. All that stuff is available there for people that are kind of like me and they just want to, learn a lot about it.
Got it. Yeah. My audience tends to be busy, overwhelmed women that have already listened to this whole episode. I'm like, okay, yep, it's good. If Dr. Renee had her on, it's good company. They're organic.
Right.
So, they'll probably just like, go directly to you and maybe book a call and figure out. And so the other thing I want to say is I'm all for investing in my health and products, but there's a lot of women out there that are like, okay, I can only get one product.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that they could just get one product to help?
Yes, and that's why I say first and foremost, take a daily dose of CBD, whether it's like our nano jellies or whether it's a tincture. That is the absolute best thing. The thing that's cool about my company is that we have a program called Friend Share. And what it is that not as an advocate like I am, so you don't need to be on the business side of it. As a customer, if you become and we have 80% of our customers are on auto delivery because they don't want to be without these products. But when you become a customer, you get your own account. And that Friend Share is so cool because there's only a couple of companies in the direct sales industry, which I'm in, that have this as part of their business model. But it's sort of like, all of the companies out there that are doing retail, like social retail, where it's like, hey, I'm going to give this code to my friend. They're going to get a discount, but then I get something for that. So the Friend Share that we implemented is so cool because as a customer, and this is not inexpensive, like I said, it's an investment, but as a customer, you get your own Friend Share code. Like the first time, say you're going to buy from me as an advocate, the first time you buy from me, I give you my Friend Share code, you get a $10 discount. I get $10 of product credit as an advocate. It's attached
Mhm.
to the business.
Mhm.
But as a customer, you now get code. And so when you give that to your friend,
Mhm.
they get $10 off and you get $10 of product credit. So the more people that and our customers are our testimonies, right?
Mhm.
So when
Mhm.
people start using these products and they start feeling better, they start telling their friends about it. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to pay you for that. We're going to give you this product credit that you can bank and you can use whenever you want. It is forever. You don't have to use it within a certain period of time. But
Mhm.
that's something, the more people that you share this with, the more product credit that you can build up. And
Mhm.
so it's a way to make the products a little more affordable.
Mhm.
And I would say, like I said, first and foremost, a tincture or a nano jelly. If you have a lot of pain, you're going to do a tincture over a nano jelly because our nano jellies are broad spectrum. And broad spectrum, they've removed that tiny, tiny lick of THC from that. So it's all those other cannabinoids, all the terpenes, all the flavonoids, but no THC. And there has been a lot of people kind of swear that having that entourage effect of just that tiny trace amount helps when it comes to someone dealing with a lot of pain. So, but there are other products that we have, topicals that we have, and other things that we have, terpene boost products that we have that you boost into your CBD that can help you with that as well. So again,
Perfect.
it's like the product match form is a great place to start because when they fill that out, I can right off the bat say, you know, good, better, best. These are the products you should be looking at.
Perfect. Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
that's super helpful. So thank you. They'll come find you. We'll make sure we put that link
Yes.
tree below in the show notes. Um, we could always that video we referenced, we can try to put that in there as well. Yeah, and in the Facebook group as well, if you want to make sure that we get all of
Yes.
those, we'll make sure they're in the show notes. If not directly in the show notes below, then they'll be attached. But I just
Yes.
want to thank you for giving your time today and being such a wealth of information and educating the audience on this huge topic of CBD and taking again all the scariness out of it and making, it really a
Yeah.
useful tool in our health and wellness regimen. So thank you so much.
And obviously for children too. So
Mhm.
don't forget your kids. I mean, I know tons of children that are sleeping better, feeling less anxious, all those kinds of things. So it's an absolute wonderful thing for every human being and every dog and every cat.
Last little bit, ADHD, helpful or not?
Yes. And,
Okay.
and the thing that is important to know about CBD is that there was a point in time where our government had a 20-year patent on the non-psychotropic cannabinoids in this plant. And if you look, and I, because I've become such a nerd about everything, when I found that out, because it shocked me, and I went and read the patent was like every single paragraph was, we think that this could help with, and I mean, pick a disease, pick an illness.
Mhm.
And then they would say, of course, we need to do more studies, like everything was sort of like that. But when our own government had a patent on the non-psychotropic aspects of this plant, it kind of comes back to the idea of, wait a minute, you mean the plant that's locked in the Schedule A drug category? Like that's a whole another topic of conversation. But
Mhm.
it's important to understand that because so much of things like those types of issues are impacted by anxiousness, sleep issues,
Mhm.
all of these other things, it's like that great balancing is where people see the difference. So the ability to focus. My own daughter is ADHD. Would have absolutely, when she started taking, Adderall in middle school, if I had had this, I would have loved to have been able to say, and shame on this country for not having it for all of us. But if I would have had it, I would have been like, we're going to start here. Like,
Well,
it's not that it's not the absolute be all end all
mhm.
cure, but when you're helping your body operate more effectively, it can only be beneficial. That's it. Like,
Yeah. And that's why we're here. We're here to just put the education out there. Definitely don't come off your medications without your doctor's recommendations.
no,
However, we're here to let you know there's other options that you might want to try in addition to or in lieu of if you
yes,
do choose to come off at your own
yes.
discretion. But that's why we're here. We're here to put the information out there and educate you and inform you, and you can make your own decisions. So thanks
One thing
again.
is, let me add just one more thing. I'm sorry. One thing I want to make sure people understand is that whenever I'm talking to a customer, I always first and foremost ask them if they're on medication. And if they are on any kind of prescribed medication, I ask them two things. Do you get drug tested? Are you on medication? If they're on medication, the best way to go to your doctor, I always say you need to let your doctor know that you want to integrate, that you're integrating this into your health and wellness regimen. You don't want to ask them permission. You want to say, I want you to be aware that I'm integrating this into my health and wellness regimen. And the reason that you want to say that is because what they have found about CBD is that sometimes it can enhance and sometimes it can diffuse the effectiveness of these synthetic medications. And so because there's no way to know for sure, it's sort of a going to your doctor and saying, I plan to integrate this. I want you to be aware because you're prescribing these medications for me, and I want to be able to keep an eye on where those prescription levels need to be and how this might impact that. So
Perfect.
there's just a lot of doctors out there who, off the side, like my vet, off the record, would love to recommend this but can't, right? And so it's sort of you don't want to ask permission, you just want to say this, and then if they think, no, you shouldn't do this or for whatever reason, listen to your doctors, of course. But more and more, it's sort of okay, great, I'll keep that in mind and I will make sure that I consider that with these other medications that you're taking. So absolutely talk to your doctor if you're on any prescription medication. And those, I
Perfect.
have people on my team that are still taking some of those prescription medications,
Yep.
have implemented the CBD. It's really helped them feel better overall, but they're not going to let go of those other things that also have been helping them.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Jackie. I appreciate your time today. And this was just so informative. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Thank you for having me. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Round two.
Yeah, round two for sure. Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Real Heal and that you learned something new. And before you go, can you do me a quick favor? Take a screenshot right now and share it to Instagram and tag me so I can celebrate you for taking action and improving your health. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please take a minute to leave me a rating and a quick review. This will help others just like you find the show. And do not forget to subscribe because you will not want to miss out on any of the amazing guest experts that I have coming up very soon. And remember, it's not selfish to take care of yourself. Do one thing today that makes you happy and learn to love life again. And with that, I'm out of here. Talk to you again soon.